As many of you guys know, I made a video the other day about Game Pass from Xbox. It's technically an excerpt from my full show Talk Gaming, but nonetheless, it was a video and I talked about it. I said it was wonderful. It was great. I really am excited about the future of Microsoft, if that is any indication of where they're going. It really is just pro-consumer. It redefines the term used games. GameStop's stock dropped 7% in a day after the announcement. It's already having an impact, basically creating a Netflix for games, but like the original Netflix, where you actually get the game for a period of time or however long you need, as long as you're subscribed. It's wonderful. It's great. Now, I did mention that PlayStation tried something like this, and technically is still trying something like this. It's called PlayStation Now. And prior to this, it hadn't really been mentioned a whole lot. Sony didn't bring it up because it really wasn't that successful. Not many people signed up specifically for this feature. But moreover, the feature didn't perform very well. Most people experienced real bandwidth problems because the way that PlayStation approaches it is with streaming the games. So you stream the games from their servers and all of that. And up until this point, it was only available for PlayStation 3 games, which is understandable. If they're streaming, they're computing the game, they're doing all of that on their end. So to do a PlayStation 3 game is much easier to do than a PlayStation 4 game. However, that has just changed. Let me switch over to show you. Sony just announced that PlayStation Now is going to start streaming PlayStation 4 games in 2017. And this is pretty exciting. And as they say, as many of you know, PlayStation Now lets you stream hundreds of PlayStation 3 games, currently 483 to be exact, to your PS4 and Windows PC. Now, I have not personally tried this, but everyone that I have talked to has said that it's just, especially if you're on PC and you're used to playing in a certain tier of graphic fidelity or frame rates or something, this is a real downgrade to the point where it's for many PC players, and PC players tend to be a little snobby about graphics. As one of them, I can say that, but it really felt like a downgrade, but it gave you the option to play these games nonetheless. But now they're expanding it. In the next few weeks, we'll kick off a private test with PS4 games on PlayStation Now. If you're an active PS Now subscriber, keep an eye on your email in case you get an invitation. So again, it's not really clear how this is rolling out, but if you really look at what they're saying and what they're doing, I think it hints at something very big, a prediction which I'm about to make, but let me set this up. If you're new to PlayStation Now, the subscription service offers access to a large and ever-expanding library of games. Since PlayStation Now utilizes our cloud streaming technology, you can use the entire catalog of games, select one, and start playing quickly without needing to wait for downloads, which is their advantage over Game Pass. Game Pass still requires you to download the game. It just lets you download it, play it for however long you want, then you can delete it, download a new game, play that for however long you want, that type of thing. With this, it lets you just click a button and you start playing. There's pros and cons to each, but that's what they're going for. They're going for this sort of instant gratification, and I think they're setting it up for one big feature, which I'm going to talk about in just a second. Also, PlayStation Now uses cloud saves, letting you start a game on PlayStation 4 and continue playing on another PlayStation 4 or even a Windows PC, or vice versa. So they also, if you're interested, they give you a 7-day free trial, basically, so you can try it out. And they've got all sorts of games on there right now, at least through February. These were the most popular ones through February, including Red Dead Redemption 2, The Last of Us, WWE 2K15, Mafia 2, just all these games. And of course, these are all games for the PlayStation 3. So it's very exciting, but a lot of people were wondering, like, well, what's the point of this? Where are they going with this? And I think it's very unique, and I think it's very specific. What I think that this is going for is specifically a transition and take on Nintendo. Now, the Nintendo Switch, we've seen it coming for a long while. It was discussed, it was planned, everyone knew that it was coming, and that it was going to be an attempt to get into the mobile gaming market. The Nintendo Switch, as seen in, let me see if I have it pulled up. The Nintendo Switch right now has sold twice as many systems at launch as the Wii U did, and so that ends up being around 80,000 units, which compared to the amount that like the PlayStation 4 has gotten out, it's especially in its first like opening weekend, like as seen here, the Switch is 80,000 launch figure in the UK. This is specifically UK. Is not as good as the 3DS, which was 113,000. While it is nowhere even close to the launches of PS4, 250,000, or the Xbox One being 150,000. So it's still not amazing, but when you think about the fringe that it's on, the fact that it is a mobile device, it seems to be a bit of a novelty product, at least right now, with only so many launch titles. Many people considering only one launch title to even be worth buying, that being Breath of the Wild, of course. So with that said, it still is an opportunity. It's a market that people are at least interested in, and the Switch introduces them to that market. The problem with the Switch, and it's been the problem for Nintendo for a while, is getting people to adopt their console without third-party games, without those big exclusives that get people excited, which frankly, Sony has dominated this generation. Xbox has some, which they are trying to capitalize on with Game Pass and with their cross-platform Play Anywhere program. But as of right now, Sony, just in terms of raw sales numbers, games like The Last of Us, Uncharted 4, Bloodborne, name any PS4 exclusive, really seem to be doing very well. So, Sony, looking at this naturally, as any person with any mental capacity would do, you have to look at it and say, well, okay, where are they going with this? What would be the point of pushing this PlayStation Now experience? It frankly doesn't really compete with Game Pass specifically. But what I think it's setting up for is a PlayStation Vita update. Specifically, the Vita hasn't really gone through a formative change in actually quite a number of years. It's been basically the same device with some alterations here and there. But for the most part, it's been the same product without any real reason to purchase it other than, for instance, streaming from your PlayStation onto it, which can be fun and can work. I've done it a few times with a friend's Vita. I don't have one. But what this would allow them to do is allow you to stream, if they hook up the Vita and really optimize the Vita for this service, the PlayStation Now service, it would allow you to stream a game such as the one you see on screen right now, Days Gone, which is an upcoming PS4 exclusive. It would allow you to stream that to a handheld device, which would be a console seller for me. If you also look at it, you could stream Uncharted 4 to this device, because all of a sudden the Vita, all it needs to be able to do, it doesn't necessarily have to have a lot of graphics processing power behind it or a lot of pure computational power behind it. It just has to excel in its wireless connectivity or any sort of connection to their servers, which, if you think about it, if you're switching from like $250, $300 and you're trying to cram all this graphic stuff in that device, naturally there's going to be kind of compromises here and there. But if you can invest all of that into just networking capabilities, then you end up with a console, a handheld console that can do something that the Switch can't. The Switch is, of course, limited by its hardware as a mobile unit. Whereas if the PlayStation Now program gears towards the Vita, all of a sudden you have a device which is focused on streaming rather than it is on doing the computations in hand. And then you get access to all of these games, as long as the connection is good, of course. There's still limitations to it, but it really would afford Sony the ability to get into a market potentially and dominate it with all of their exclusives, with big budget titles, without having to really compromise a whole lot. Now, of course, there's problems with this. naturally you aren't actually rendering the games yourself on your handheld. If you are like flying somewhere or something, you wouldn't be able to do it as well, or even perhaps at all. You would have to be connected in order to use the device. But that, in the modern world, is a much more reasonable thing. And especially if people know that going into the device, when they first have it, they know, when I purchase this, if I can't connect, if, like, for instance, I live in Colorado, when you're driving through the valleys or through the mountains along, say, the Poudre or wherever you are, you often hit dead spots where there's no cell phone connectivity. If your car breaks down, you got to walk a few miles. Like, there's no connection at all. But that's a rare case nowadays, especially for most people. When they're going through their day-to-day life, they tend to have large areas where they can connect. So to me, it seems like a reasonable thing to look into, or at least to try out. I think it would be very compelling, at least for me. Now, of course, there's a lot of hurdles that have to be done. Digital, like, for instance, going over data. If you're going to try to do the iPad thing and have it so the Vita all of a sudden has actual, like, connects with your phone carrier or something and uses that data to stream these games. Streaming any type of video, it costs a lot of bandwidth, a lot of your data for your plan. So that would be a problem, but that would allow you to play these games wherever you are, as long as the connection is good. So there's a lot of hurdles to jump. But that's true of any device, any console, any technological anything. And so naturally, I don't see it as a big problem. I think Sony certainly has thought of this, if they are considering this, which I see this as the natural next step. They haven't mentioned a lot about the Vita. They need to answer the Switch in some way. Microsoft apparently has no answer to the Vita right now. They really have just not said much of anything about it. They don't have any rumors going around. Their big thing is the Scorpio, which is going to take down the PS4 Pro in terms of performance, and maybe take on the PC in terms of pure gaming or whatever, if people are looking to get into the console market. I think Sony perhaps is either going to answer Xbox or they're going to answer Nintendo. I would doubt that they're going to put out two different major feature sets or major product releases in late 2017 or early 2018. That seems like a bit of a stretch. But if they could nail this, and if they could pull off the Vita using PlayStation Now to stream games like Bloodborne accurately with at least a decent resolution. Again, remember, you're dealing with a handheld like this big. This is my Pixel, my Google Pixel. Like, you're dealing with a device that's fairly small. You don't have to have a high-res display, so you're not streaming even necessarily 1080p video. You're streaming 720p video from their servers. You just have to have good ping times and all that. So it's doable, especially if they invest it correctly, and I'm sure they've been dealing with these in massive quantities, all sorts of tests and things. But this is honestly where I see it going. I see the natural progression for Sony being to push the Vita as the new kind of evolution of mobile gaming, where, like, everyone's complaining, how are you going to get a 1080 into this thing, or not even a 1080? How are you going to get a console level of graphics or of computing capability into a device this big? The Sony's solution is, don't. We'll do it. We'll stream it to you. It's like, okay, that could work. If it can be done properly, it would be an amazing feat. And I personally would say that that's their natural next step. So my prediction is that in late 2017 or early 2018, sometime in that roughly 6 to 8 month window, you'll see a push from Sony with this PlayStation Now feature set, really encouraging PlayStation Now subscriptions with the Vita, perhaps even an updated version of the Vita. I would say probably necessarily an updated version of the Vita. I don't think that the current one is capable. I believe the last update to the Vita was, like, true update, was in 2014, and that would naturally hint at some big update coming, or they're just going to abandon the product outright, which would be unfortunate. of course, because I think that it would be a grand missed opportunity, especially having gone through all of this. I think that there's plenty of potential for something, but that's all I have to say. Let me know what you thought. Let me know if you think that this would be a good thing, if you would buy the Vita, if it could stream this, if you would be willing to pair it with your phone provider. Let me know. Thanks for watching. Love you all. Peace out. Hey, did you like that? Well, that was just an extra of the full show that I do every weekend. So if you haven't seen it already, make sure to check it out. Ad card things popping up everywhere. And subscribe if you haven't already.